On the boardwalk of Atlantic City, the sound of the Mid-Merloche pipe organ soars through the famed Boardwalk Hall. A massive engineering marvel that first thrilled audiences back in the 1930s. How many pipes from the entire organ?
Roughly 33,000.
33,000.
Yes.
At 90, Brant Duddy is the same age as the organ. It was all but destroyed by a deadly hurricane in the 1940s and then neglected for nearly half a century. Duddy and a team of volunteers have spent the past 10 years taking it apart and putting it back together.
These things have soul, and it reaches you, just grabs you and holds on.
An instrument literally built into the wall, ceiling, and basement of what was then a hugely popular 40,000-seat venue. So we are in the organ.
Yes.
That's the auditorium out there.
That's the auditorium.
Our guide took us behind the walls. The largest pipe, 64 feet tall, made of wood. The smallest, the size of a fingertip. It mimics an entire orchestra. It's hard to grasp how massive this thing is.
And that's the beauty of it. It's hidden behind here because it's meant to just bring music to the hall.
Machines pump hundreds of pounds of air pressure up from the basement to power the sound. All that, and they've restored only half of it.
You could close your eyes, and the music to me it was as though there was waves here, and you could feel the music just kind of floating.
They still have several years of painstaking work to fully restore it. A musical treasure coming back to life. Ron Allen, NBC News, Atlantic City.
You're seeing the world's largest functioning musical instrument. Some 28,500 pipes are in this organ. The ones you see, interestingly enough, don't actually play. The facades of this very, very famous instrument are not speaking. They're just there for show. The pipes are behind the walls. Hi, I'm Peter Richard Conti. My title is Wanamaker Grand Court Organist at Macy's. And this console that you're seeing right now is just the control panel. Looks like a cockpit of a large aircraft. And these are the keyboards, much like piano keyboards. We have 6 of them because there's so many different voices to control. Each one of these keyboards controls a different family or a division of pipes, they're called. And then to my right and left of the keyboards are the actual stops, the voices. And there are 3 symphony orchestras worth of voices. We call the voices on an organ a rank, and this organ has 469 ranks, or players, if you will. The organists are part octopus, and the pedal board is the equivalent of the bass end of the orchestra. Is played by the feet. Back when I first started here, in my early part of my tenure, the organ was pretty much dead, if you can believe it. Most of it just didn't function. Macy's came in, and within just a few years, the organ went from hardly playable to now it's 100% playable.
The organ's turning on. first thing that turned on was the DC power supply to give the power to the organ. You can see all the pilot lights lit. So that's putting out 13 volts for the instrument. And then the next thing that happens is that the 8 blowers throughout the building turn on slowly, one after the other, so we don't take too much current at once. And you can hear the organ coming to life. The air goes through a bellows, which is like a diaphragm regulator, and that controls the final pressure that goes inside the chest. There we go. And then you have a pneumatic under this note that opens and closes and allows the air to come in here when it's called for. So in many cases you have 3 pneumatics per note that have to be maintained and rebuilt. This is where the signals for the orchestral come upstairs and then are distributed into the chamber. This has reeds. You'll see there's all kinds of different shaped resonators for all the reeds in this chamber. You can see the shutters that let the sound out. You can see them opening and closing as he's playing.
Macy's gets the fact that this is an international icon, and it's a Philadelphia treasure as well. And Macy's understands that, and they have really poured their resources into it, and it's a wonderful thing. The organ is in the best shape of its life.
Nice. Yeah, good. That turned out pretty well, actually, yeah.
Notre Dame's pipe organ also appears to have been unscathed in the fire. Our Joe Holden spoke to a local man who has a personal connection to the cathedral. Joe joins us now from Center City to explain. Joe, good evening.
Yuki, good evening. Alan Morrison is the chair of the organ department at the Curtis Institute of Music right here in Center City, Philadelphia. Mr. Morrison was expected, or at least preparing, to give a recital at the cathedral until yesterday's fire. Quick work is being made to rescue the many treasures of Notre Dame. Arguably the largest, its pipe organ. It's a massive, hulking, magnificent instrument from the mid-1800s. Experts say will have to come out a piece or a pipe at a time. It's believed the organ was spared the wrath of Monday evening's fire, but water and smoke damage are a major concern. Alan Morrison is chair of the organ department at the Curtis Institute of Music in Center City, Philadelphia. His heart broke at the sight of the fire.
Western music as we know it today grew out of that church, the School of Notre Dame Polyphony. My thoughts went to the history of the place and what it has meant to what we know today. Morrison, a renowned organist, has played the grand instrument inside Notre Dame many times. This is video from a few years ago. If you put a price tag on it, it would be in the multi-millions. But like fine art, you can't really put a price on it. Morrison regularly travels with Curtis students to Paris to play the French Baroque organ. It's an experience difficult to summarize, especially considering this place had a version of an organ in it in the 1300s. That's about 100 years before Columbus ever set sail. Yeah, I think just the sonic power of the instrument and also the expressiveness of the pipe work. It has a soul. When you hear it played under the right hands, it sings, and it can be fearsome, it can be thrilling, it can bring you to tears, it can make you feel joyous. And Notre Dame was on Morrison's mind as recently as Sunday night. He had drafted his program for that recital in August and sent it off to the music department. Of course, that concert not going to happen.
Pipe organs are among the oldest instruments in the Western world. They go back to the ancient Greeks, they predate pianos, and were the world's most complex human-made machines until the steam engine was invented. Today we associate organs with church music, but during the Roman Empire, pipe organs were used as entertainment in gladiator fights, something we don't do here at St. Paul's. They were installed in cathedrals beginning in the Middle Ages and concert halls in the 19th and 20th centuries. St. Paul's organ was installed here in 2017 by the Nowak Organ Company. They originally built it in 1989 for a church in Boston.
I had played that instrument throughout the 90s. It became so clear that that was an ideal instrument for St. Paul's Chapel.
We brought this instrument to New York and re-engineered it to fit into our existing historic wooden case. What you see is just the case. Most of the instrument isn't visible. This case has housed 6 different organs since it was built in 1802. There are 2,156 pipes in this organ, and over 5,000 mechanical elements. When I play a key, it triggers a series of mechanical actions that open a valve under a pipe. Air, generated by an electric motor, enters that pipe, producing a tone that is constant in pitch and volume until the key is released. Each keyboard is called a manual and corresponds to a different division of pipes. Here, the top one is the swell, the middle, the grate, and the lower one is the choir. The pedal board also controls a section of pipes. Let's take a look inside the organ case. This is the ground level, where the manuals, pedals, and stops on the outside connect mechanically to the inside through wooden trackers, and where the motors, blowers, and tall pedal pipes live. On the second level are rows of choir division pipes in the front half, and swell division pipes behind them in the back. At the top level, we find the grate division pipes. These are the stops. When I pull a stop, I'm choosing a rank, which is a whole row of pipes with the same musical quality. So we can see that there are stops on either side of the keyboards here. When you pull one stop, what you do is you signal an entire row of pipes inside the organ case. So each one of these stops actually represents 56 pipes, one for each note on the keyboard. And if you don't pull stops, you actually don't get any sound. So pulling a stop, for instance, a harmonic flute, or a oboe, gives you a wide range of possibility. I could be playing a melody with my right hand, accompanying with my left hand on another manual, playing the bass with my left foot, and adjusting the swell shades inside the organ with my right foot. When you come to Pipes at 1 on Thursday, or any of our services, you'll hear a variety of music and composers represented. Listen for the stop choices and how expressive this very complicated instrument, which is basically like a full orchestra, can be.
How to build a pipe organ. For centuries, it was the most complex man-made device in existence. And even today, it can take 20,000 man-hours to build. Step 1. Build, lease, or inherit a 20,000 square foot cathedral without an organ. For a medium-sized church, your pipe organ will cost between $300,000 and $800,000. Step 2. Your pipe organ needs different sized pipes.
It's important to note that the pipe organ is a wind instrument, and that's something people don't always understand. When you have a piano, you have a hammer hitting strings. When you have an organ, you have wind moving through a pipe.
Gather 5,000 pipes and cut them into varying lengths. from 3/4 of an inch to 32 feet. To see this concept at work, cut off the corners of a straw to make a simple reed pipe. As the pipe is shortened, the pitch of the note rises. To produce extremely low notes, you need a giant pipe. Step 3. Your wind instrument needs wind. Assemble your lumber into 12 rectangular boxes, each measuring 88 inches by 3 feet by 1 foot. Drill 5,000 holes of various sizes corresponding to your pipe's diameters. Next, insert your 5,000 pipes into the holes.
So here we have a duct for the wind from the blower room. It goes into the bellows. It goes into one of the wind chests. And on top of the wind chest, we've got several rows of pipes. So the German here is coming out of it, the wind chest. All right. A wind chest holds pressurized air, and then when the organist pulls a stop and presses a key, that air is allowed through the pipes.
The more stops the organist pulls out, the more pipes receive air. And that's where the expression pulling out all the stops comes from.
You're living in the moment, man. Just YOLO. Just pull those stops out. I think that's what they said in medieval times, was YOLO, let's pull these stops out.
Step 4. To blow their socks off, you need a blower. Connect blower to wind chest using 50 feet of 8-inch cider steel ducting. Now you need a way to control all of the parts and turn them into music. Step 5. Assemble console.
If you got me near a pipe organ console, I would just be lost. I'd just break down crying and be like, what do these buttons do?
It's really a full-body experience of running the pedals, doing the keyboards, adjusting the volume.
I use all my limbs. Sometimes I need to pull stops, and I've even conducted a choir while playing the organ.
This is Duke University.
When you have a very large space, like the chapel, you need enough sound to fill it. The Benjamin Newton Duke Memorial Organ has 4 manuals and pedal, 67 speaking stops, and 5,030 pipes. Each manual or division and pedal has a different character. It has different types of sounds. We have the second manual, which has some of the louder and more full sounds. And then the Bovenwerk, the third manual, we have some other more characteristic sounds of Dutch or North German instrument from the 18th century. Bar pipe. But we also have flute stops, which are a sweeter sound. But we also have reed stops that have an actual reed tongue. And we have different kinds of trumpets. So here the pedal board is flat across, and so we can put on some stops. Couple the manuals together and not just have to use them independently. For example, if I wanted this sound here, but I really wanted to make it a little fuller with more principal sounds from here, I could do this, and then I could couple. So when I play this manual, I'm also getting this one here. You can see it mechanically couples them together. This is a mechanical action instrument, also known as a tracker. So let's take a look inside. So I play a note. A sticker transfers the action down, and then there's a square that transfers the action 90 degrees, and there's a tracker attached to a roller arm. The roller transfers the action laterally, and then another arm transfers the action back to the chest, where there's another square which pulls on a pallet pull-down wire, which pulls down the pallet and allows pressurized air to go into a key channel. When a stop is pulled, the slider moves, and it allows air to go from the key channel to the pipe and the pipe speaks. Each section of pipes corresponds with a different manual or the pedals. And this note, this second C sharp, is actually this pipe right here. This is a reed pipe, and it's got a resonator, kind of like a trumpet, and it has an actual reed. I'm going to pull this tuning wire off. Underneath it is the shallot, not a shallot, that's in the onion family. It's made very much like a clarinet mouthpiece, if you think about how that's made. And so, between the vibrating length of the reed tongue and the length of the resonator, that's how the pitch is determined. Now, I've taken off the tuning wire, so this has to go back in, and now this pipe is completely out of tune. So to tune this pipe, I've turned on another stop that I know is in tune. I will play this note and I will tune it against the one pipe that I know is in tune. And you'll hear beats, and the beats will get slower and slower until the note's in tune. So now it's in tune. And after that, we have more than 1,000 reed pipes, and more than 1,000 flute pipes, and over 2,000 principal pipes, and then the whole organ will be in tune. For this work, I get to do a lot of climbing. There are ladders in the back, and I get to go way up, 35, 40 feet or so, and I get to see things that most people don't, because I get a nice view down the nave, as well as being able to see some of the stained glass windows in the narthex. If I've done my tuning well enough, you should hear nothing out of tune. The repairs I make should look just like the organ looked when it left the factory floor. So if I'm doing my job really well, you won't even know I'm here.
Hi, my name is Lily, and I've chosen to do a homemade pipe organ out of PVC pipes. A pipe organ consists of an airbox, notes, and keys. This is very difficult, but we're going to find a way to do it. I measured our first tester, which was a G, and that turned out to be 410 centimeters. Okay. And then I measured out our A, which turned out to be 360. And the difference between those two is 50. So if we were to make an F, which means to be longer, so the lower the note, the longer the tube is. So I plus that on to 410, so our F is going to be 460. And then I just kept on adding it to, yeah, so it's 2 octaves now. Okay, so we got our full octave done, which was very exciting. And now we're trying to do a chord with C, E, G, and C. Let's see how it goes. That's awesome. So now we're we're trying another chord with C, F, A, and C. We'll see how it goes. It's a G. We're gluing on our black keys. We just finished painting everything, and we put on our plexiglass top so we can see the flap. And yeah, we're just kind of doing the last finishing touches. This is the last day before we turn it in, and yeah, we just finished painting the little doors to show underneath there. Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Let's give it a go. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Well done.
The first discussion was about what kind of an organ. Obviously, you can buy a digital instrument for much less money. And so there are some people who think that's the way one should go. And we studied that a little bit, but when we finally came down to a decision, a good friend of mine who was the then chair of the vestry, the senior warden of the vestry, said, you know, this is really a pipe organ church, which it is. And so then came the challenge of how we get that done and how we get people interested in it.
The most difficult part of this installation, now I have the answer, was the site itself. Because it sits on the left side of the altar area, and we had the angle of the ceiling plus the lights. And then to be able to reach all the heavy components, as I was saying, the chests, we were using a kind of hoist on wheels, and then it was very tight, and we had a specific path to follow every time.
So here in Lexington, we have a beautiful church that was renovated, so we have a nice acoustic here. So it influences the way we have to work the pipes, the sound of the pipes, the voicing that we call, in order to fit and blend perfectly in the room. So we have more than 1,000 pipes here in this instrument, 1,351, divided in 23 ranks. So these have interconnections between them. It's like an orchestra. So there's palettes of different tones and colors that we have to create. So we, the voicers, we create the sound.
So the first piece is by a Baroque French composer, Francois Couperin, and this organ handles the French sound of the grand jeu, which is like the big play, and the reeds, and so many different stops, flues coupled together, and it's fun to go back and forth. It's a little dialogue piece. This organ's great.
It can play English music, it can play French music. We've listened to all of it already at this point. We've had some of every real group of organ literature already played in these first few weeks at Greece.
We really started talking about it more than at least 10 years ago. We started thinking about it seriously, as I recall, in 2013. And it was because the instrument that we had was beginning to fail, so that the repair people and tuners and so forth would say, we can only do so much and so forth. It got to the point where the instrument was going to have to be completely rebuilt, and it wouldn't be worth the cost that it took to rebuild it. So we had to start thinking about a new instrument.
This organ really shows off the ability to highlight the different layers of a Bach chorale or trio sonata and the different sounds. And then the last piece is a Brahms piece, and the strings in this instrument are so beautiful and warm. You can feel like there's viola and cello just from these pipes.
can see up there, there's stairs up there. Look at all the animals.